Hello and howdy everyone. A couple days ago I got to see one of my favorite films of all time, one of the funniest movies of all time, Rob Reiner's This Is Spinal Tap, and I loved it. Again, it's one of my favorite films of all time. Watched it for the first time in my later years of high school, probably around 1995 to 1997. Actually had it introduced to me by a friend. Couldn't believe I had never seen it. And so I will be eternally grateful for that exposure. I love the film. It, as far as I know, the first mockumentary. This is Spinal Tap is a documentary about I was going to say the rise and fall, but it's mostly just the fall of one of the great rock and roll bands of all time, Spinal Tap, and that's pretty much it. Basically, the fall of Spinal Tap and the pitfalls of fame. It's a mockumentary, though. Spinal Tap is a real band, but it was a real band that was created for this film. So it's interesting to talk about. Just that alone is something interesting. As far as I know, it's the first film of its kind. I can't think of an earlier example. I would maybe think of... well, now it's slipped my mind. Is it Sleeper? It's a Woody Allen film, and it's kind of a documentary, but it's not. I believe it's Sleeper. Or maybe it's Bananas. I can't remember. One of his earlier films, which is basically a mock documentary. So maybe Spinal Tap isn't like the original, but I can't think of a better example. And every film that has followed has copied Spinal Tap, exists from the blueprint that Spinal Tap creates. It was written by the four main characters, I suppose. Rob Reiner, he directed the film, also plays the director of the mockumentary. Again, very levels going on here. Marty DeBurgi. Rob Reiner plays Marty DeBurgi. He was one of the writers. Spinal Tap is played by Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer. Those are basically comedy legends. Maybe Michael McKean not so much legendary, with the exception of Spinal Tap, but certainly holds his own against the other two. So the four of those fellows wrote it. It's primarily improvised. They had a story structure. They had what they had to accomplish in a scene, and just basically get there. They had some minor story details, but it's basically a improvised film, which would again set the bar for many other films to follow. Basically the comedy genre to follow. I think shows like Curb Your Enthusiasm owe a lot to This Is Spinal Tap. Most notably, I mean, you can't not mention it, are the Christopher Guest films. Christopher Guest, I would have to imagine, is a large influence of this film, and maybe had most of the idea, maybe wanted to do it more than anyone. Why Rob Reiner never worked with any of them again is beyond me. I have no idea. I'm sure it's a Hollywood legend why they are no longer working together. But Christopher Guest would take a long break, probably a 12-year break from filmmaking, and come back with Waiting for Guffman, and then Best in Show, and let's see, A Mighty Wind, and what's the show business one? I can't remember. Well, I don't know. I can't remember what it is. It's the one that skewers show business. I can't remember the last one he did. Anyway, those films are fantastic, much loved. And again, they are all just basically copies of This Is Spinal Tap. All of the, not all, but a lot of the faces from This Is Spinal Tap would go on to appear in the guest films. Fred Willard is in this film. Let's see, who else is in this film? Fran Drescher, Billy Crystal, Dana Carvey, Bruno Kirby, some names I don't know, plenty of names I don't know, but faces that you would recognize. It's just got great performances in it, and it's amazing to me. It's just awe-inspiring that it's not scripted, you know, that they're just sitting there and thinking of this. I mean, sure, they probably took, you know, multiple takes and cherry-picked, you know, the best lines, you know, through rehearsals and those multiple takes, but still, just that, you know, something that good can come out of just rambling, basically, is just spectacular to me. I don't really know what else to say. It's so perfectly a documentary. I mean, it's so good at pretending to be important and pretending to be, you know, a documentary. And it's, a lot of the humor comes out of that pomposity. I think that's a word, maybe. You know, there's a lot of humbling moments in this film. I think that is where the power of this film lies. And it's, no matter how many times I've seen this film, and it's probably under 10, but I would say over 5, every time I watch it, and I know that it's a movie, I know that it's multiple levels of not real. As Spinal Tap begins to decline, and their audiences get smaller, their venues get, you know, more remote, I feel terrible. You know, I feel so bad for them. And I think that's amazing. You know, I think that's amazing. Like, as I was watching this in the theater, I mean, it's cringeworthy. I mean, I cringe so much, and I feel so bad for these guys in this situation. And I know that the situation is totally engineered, but yet the time I've spent with them, you know, getting to know the real guys, I feel so bad for them. And it's every single time. And, you know, I don't know how that happens. You know, that to me is magic, and it's why this film is so good, is because it feels so real. You know, it feels so real that you really care. And when things start to go downhill, you feel bad. You care. And I think that's the true power of the film, is that you care about these ridiculous characters, you know, in these ridiculous situations. The theatrical experience was great. It was a 35mm archival print. The music sounded fantastic. The music's just good. The music's hilarious. The audio was great. The picture quality was fantastic. The crowd, you know, this is a midnight movie. I would say the theater was about half full. It was a good crowd. Obviously, big fans came out. So it was a great experience to watch, you know, a film I've seen, you know, many times and laughed at, you know, many times with an audience. Shared experience. And I will always recommend that. I mean, maybe it gets a little slow. I'm trying not to, like, just praise it, but I can't like not give it a 10. You know, it's again, I think so influential, and just again came at the right time in my life. It's just a perfect film. I think I had seen Waiting for Guffman before this film. I think Waiting for Guffman came out, what was it, 96, 95? Anywho, I saw Waiting for Guffman in the theater, and that kind of, I wanted to know everything about the makers of the film, and what could be, how that was done, and so that led me invariably to This Is Spinal Tap. But I still did not get to watch it until someone actually made me, I suppose you'd say. But, I mean, maybe it's a little slow here and there, repetitive, but, that's a documentary. Is repetitive. They have a repetitive life. They're on the road. They're a touring rock band, so I imagine life on the road is quite repetitive. So even that monotony, I feel that kind of lulls you into the film is still apt. But it's, again, so heartfelt and so funny that it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. There are no twists and turns, no big surprises here, but again, it never really matters, and it just goes by so quickly. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's Spinal Tap. Come on. One of the great comedies of all time, and Hefty Hall of Fame. There you go. I'll stop talking now. Thank you.